We ain't going nowhere. We can't be stopped now. AOA Podcast Wednesday edition. Oh my goodness. Solo show. Frankie C with the podcast off. J Sabs, wild card. Could be here, could not be here. She might be here right now. She could be in the chat. We just don't know. That's what we love about J Sabs. Unpredictability. But I'm here. You're here. That's all that matters. Miss Justice, what's up? Nice to be here. We got Lindy in the house. Bird back from her travels. Ooh, Frankie C's better half. Funnier half, I like to say. He doesn't like that too much. Aaron C is here. How about that? The whole crew. Rhonda, excuse me. Up and down. Laura, TD, Christine. I would say hi to you, but it would take the whole show. Let's just welcome everybody in. Big episode. President Donald Trump leading in the polls. You're going to hear that a lot. What does it mean? I'm going to explain it to you. It's not like, and here's what I mean by that. There are outlets that are like, oh, this, you know, I saw one article today that's Trump's leading in the polls. And then I clicked on the article and it's like, in Georgia. It's like, oh, well, that's not going to be a thing. But he is leading in a lot of the important states. So I'm going to give you the broad strokes. Again, I pride myself on this. Back in 2016, day before the election, I said, I don't know why Hillary's buying fireworks. This is a little too close to call. And look what happened. I'm using those same sources to, again, deliver you the truth of what's really going on out there. Because as you all know, I'm not sweating this election too much. I don't really care who's going to get it next. It's not going to really make too much of a difference. So we'll tell you the truth of what's actually happening, which will be nice. So we'll recap the polls, but he is leading. Hunter's ex testifies. That is not looking good for the Bidens there. Not looking good for any of us who like to fly or live underneath planes flying. There's more Boeing whistleblowers coming forward, and it is happening at an alarming rate. Lucky for me, I'm not hopping on a plane anytime soon. Monday. JLo and Ben Affleck moving closer towards that divorce, perhaps. Last minute edition here with the Contraception Act and baggage tip for those of you who are traveling. I like that we have a baggage tip on an episode where we're talking about, we're probably all going to fall out of the sky. It's a very reassuring episode. Nothing to worry about here, folks. You're going to feel great after this one's wrapped up. Hopefully we'll throw in a couple of laughs as well. Again, welcome in everybody. We're once again banned off of Facebook, the live stream there. So we shared our YouTube link. If you can go to the Facebook page, Anthony on Air, and share our link around on your socials, that would be much appreciated. Impacts our numbers. So any help you can give with the algos, hitting that share, hitting that like, throw it around on your Twitter, whatever it is. Share it on your Facebook, on your Instagram stories. Always a big help. Always a big help. You know, we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and X every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And of course, you can watch or listen to the replays on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's go right with the lead story here and Donald Trump leading in the polls. So again, I would encourage you to stick with this podcast because we're going to give you the real picture of what's happening out there. And we do that through a very sophisticated and complicated way. There are very few polls that get this right. Very few polls that are actually fair. As I think it was Matt or somebody said last episode, like, don't forget 2016, the polls were all messed up. And they weren't. They were fine. It was just what people chose to report from them. You know, when you extract certain numbers from the polls, you can tell whatever story you want. And that's that CNN has to do that for the left. Fox News has to do that for the right. We don't got to do shit here. So we might as well just shoot you straight. And that's how we plan on gaining audience. It worked for us in 2016. It's been working for us ever since. So we'll keep it going. But I do find it interesting. And again, this is not the end all be all because it's only Wednesday, June 5th. Donald Trump was only convicted less than a week ago. Or about a week ago, and we have a long way to go. There's the summer, there's the Hunter Biden trial, this contraception bill that the Democrats threw out there, which was without a doubt a stunt. And stunt or not, the Republicans failed. So there's all that stuff to consider. There's a lot going into this election, and I don't know if people really have made up their minds just yet. And also, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he's a factor. He's only got a couple of points. He doesn't have a huge following, but if he were to pull out of this, as most third-party candidates that mount somewhat of a following, his voters are going to have to go somewhere else. And that's going to make a big difference. Now, do the RFK followers follow Donald Trump more than Biden? It feels that way a little bit. Although at times RFK disagrees with Trump greatly, which I know doesn't really bode well with the MAGA. Sorry, hit the eject button. That doesn't bode well with the MAGA crowd. So I'm not entirely sure if RFK jumps out of the race here, what that's really going to do. But we'll be sure to find out. Anyway, we're not going to droll on about this for too long. However, coming off the conviction, still a big story. Curious to see what the polls were looking like. Big story. And Donald Trump is leading, and he's leading in all the key battleground states. And that's what we're going to look at throughout the rest of this election because, you know, New York, California, Texas, all these places, they're not really up for grabs. There's only a handful of states that are really up for grabs. And that's Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Nevada. No surprises there. Florida, not really considered a battleground state as of right now. Trump won it. It's been, it can get close down there. Florida could creep back into a battleground state, I guess. But as of right now, it's not really being considered a battleground state because it's very much in the red column. Trump leads in all the battleground states that I just named. Now, it's pretty tight. And I will tell you, with the exception of 4 of those states, he is within the margin of error. So in Wisconsin, he's up by 0.1. So too close to call. And I actually expect Wisconsin to go blue. Arizona, he's up by 4 points. So just out of the margin of error. Georgia, it's 4.8, but we all know that can swing. Michigan, he's up 0.3. Again, that's, I think Michigan will go back to blue. Pennsylvania, 2.3. That's going to be the really interesting one. 2.3 is super interesting in Pennsylvania because they elected, what's Bald Bull's name? The guy who wears the sweatshirts who can't wear Fetterman. So they elected Fetterman over Geraldo Rivera. Do I have that right? Because it feels like a fever dream. I think I'd have that right. So that state can be very red, but they have gone blue at times. Will that continue in this election? We don't know. Pennsylvania, very much a battleground state. 2.3, much in the margin of error. We'll wait and see. North Carolina, Trump has a 5.3 lead there. So I think that's pretty safe for him. In Nevada, it's 5.4. But again, it could swing. I feel like Nevada, North Carolina will wind up going red at the end of the day. So this election, with all the stuff going on here. Oh, Dr. Oz, not Geraldo. Did I say Geraldo? Thank you, Christine, for catching that. Dr. Oz, some TV show guy. I mean, I wasn't too far off, but far enough to be a little embarrassed. Thank you, Christine. Geraldo. What was I saying? It's going to be close. So for all the convicted felonies, Roe v. Wade, Hunter Biden's trial, all this, the inflation, all the stuff that's going on, I think we're going to see a pretty typical election of it's going to come down to a few states, and within those few states, it's going to come down to a few districts. And it's sad, but it's true. It kind of feels like the same 3, 4, 500,000 people are really the ones who are deciding our elections. So no matter what really happens here, with everything that we have seen, Trump being convicted, Roe v. Wade being turned over, no numbers are really moving. Is that not alarming to anybody else? We are so into ideology and identity politics that no matter what happens, the needle doesn't move at all. Now, listen, the true test, of course, will be in November. That's when we really decide. Right now, everybody can say whatever they want. Maybe people are pissed at Trump and they're not going to vote for him, so they're going to say something else. Maybe they'll come around and they'll vote for him in the end. Maybe people are pissed at Biden. Same thing. The economy, inflation, all this jazz, his son, whatever. And they're saying they're not going to vote for him. But at the end of the day, they're like, no, I'm too close to what he likes. So I'm going to vote for Biden. You know, maybe that's going to happen. And I believe a lot of that happens. It'll all settle in. Again, and I stand by this. If we have a good economic summer, if the gas prices don't go up too high, because they always rise a little in the summer, but if they're manageable, if the stock market stays true, I believe Biden will be reelected. If those things do not happen, I think Trump has a really good chance at winning. That's it. I really think that's what it comes down to the most. I think that's what people are going to be deciding on. It's June. We've got a long summer to go. We've got the fall, right? There's a lot of things that are going to happen before Election Day. Of course, nobody's going to let Donald Trump forget that he was convicted of a felony. Of course, he still has to be sentenced. That can change the whole thing. If he winds up getting a community service, if he winds up going to jail, which nobody really seems to think except for a small handful of people, that can change all of this. So it's still really, really early. But you have to admit, you're a little curious, coming off the conviction, how much those numbers would move. Now, like I said, I did see a CBS poll where he did not have enough Republican support to help push him over the top. But again, that was pretty broad. What I'm looking at right now are the battleground states. All right, Ant, what poll are you looking at? What I'm looking at is an amalgamation, an average of all of the polls out there. So if you're like, don't listen to that Quinnipiac poll, it's this, or don't listen to that poll, it's that. But if you do take all the polls and you put them together and you put them in this equation that I'm using over here, this service that I'm using, it does give you a clear picture. Again, this is the same. I can only tell you my experience. This is the same system that I used back in 2016. And I said, this election is far too close to call. I don't know why Hillary Clinton's buying fireworks. I was on the air in the Hamptons saying that. Oh my God, how long ago was that? Holy shit, was that 8 years ago? Oh my goodness. Where has time gone? I was so much younger. I had so much less gray hair. Oh my God. I only had one kid, I think, that I know of. Anyway, snap out of it, midlife crisis. Sorry. This was the same system I used back then. And I had it the day before. I told everybody, this is far too close to call. And then when everybody was surprised and stunned the next day, I wasn't, because I was looking at the real numbers. And that's what I'm looking at right now. And I will tell you, for anybody who doesn't like Donald Trump, you should be worried, because it doesn't seem like this conviction really mattered. Now, we knew it was going to matter to the MAGA people, but I still believe it's going to matter to the independents. It doesn't seem like it's making that much of an impact right now. Let's see what happens on July 11th or 14th. I forget which one it is. One of them's the Republican nomination. The other one's the sentencing. I think the sentencing is July 11th. Let's see what happens there and if that changes anything. I mean, if he winds up getting just flat out probation, I don't think that's going to impact clearly anything. And the fact that he can't travel to Canada or certain places, I don't think is going to bother people. I think some people will be bothered by that, and clearly some people are not. Again, we'll find out in November. We're not going to harp on these things all the time, but when it's part of the biggest story of the day, we'll talk about it. And again, you're going to get it really clear here versus any of the other places. That I can guarantee you. There's nobody else that is going to shoot you as straight than we are here on this podcast with these numbers, because frankly, we don't give a shit. It's nice to not give a shit. I don't have to worry about ratings numbers and billing and, keeping the audience. I don't give a fuck. I love that you're all here. It means the world to me. But if telling you what's actually going on is going to offend you, it was nice having you. You know what I'm saying? That's why I love this podcast much more than CNN or Fox or any of the other things out there. Also, Frankie C and J Sabs. Those are the other reasons why I love the podcast. So that's the polls after the conviction. There you go. Trump is up in the margin of error in a lot of states, leading in a lot of states. And of course, I'm talking about the battleground states. July will be the next time we'll probably talk about these numbers, because we'll really going to see what's going on and what the mood of the country is. And again, like I said, it's going to be external factors too, with the economy, inflation, gas prices. Those are all going to make a difference. You watch. For as strong as these Trump numbers are, we go through the summer with a great economy. We go through the summer and inflation creeps down a little bit. People are going to be like, we're not going to change things right now. We're not going to do that. Historically, the country has stuck with the incumbent, no matter what party. Historically, the country has stuck with the incumbent if those things hold true. Hunter Biden, things are not looking good for him. I said this at the start of the trial. Looking at the evidence, this man should be in prison. He's got 3 counts against him for lying on a form. He basically went to go get a gun, had to get the permit. They ask you if you're a drug addict. He said no. Or if he abuses drugs, whatever it is. He said no. And all the evidence seems to be pointing to the contrary. That evidence is the laptop, which, as far as we can tell, I mean, his defense might try and argue this. They haven't just yet, because it's still the prosecution's case at this point, which I found interesting that they could be resting Thursday, the end of Thursday. So I mean, we're talking about 3 days. That's not a long period of time. That tells me that they feel like they have this in the bag. That evidence was obtained legally. The story goes, he left the laptop in a shop. The shop owner tried to get it back to him after X amount of time, and he didn't come pick it up. It defaulted. They went and looked at it. They saw what was on there, and they decided to turn it over to the authorities. So that's how they came into possession of it. Then Weiss came and did the special investigation, and he decided to bring it to a court. Again, for all the people that are crying foul with Donald Trump, they used essentially the same process against Hunter Biden. I mean, it's almost identical. Grand jury, do we have a case here? We feel like we do. We'll bring charges. Done. That's it. Now he's sitting there, jury of his peers, and we'll see what happens. You know, you see what happens. You got a court case like anybody else. You got a legal battle. Can you win it or not? I don't think he can. I also don't think he should, because there's plenty of evidence on that laptop that he was still abusing drugs during the time that he purchased that gun. Now, his ex got on the stand today and said essentially that, because the hook here is in Hunter Biden's book, he admits by the dates of after when he purchased the gun, he admits to relapsing. What he is saying now is he relapsed just with alcohol, that it wasn't drugs, that he never went back to abusing drugs, that it was just alcohol. But again, if you go by what is on that laptop, it really does appear that that's not true. And when his ex took the stand today in court, she backed that up by saying, I witnessed him doing drugs after the time that he said that he wasn't. So there you go. You know, and can you trust his word? I mean, I guess it's going to be, it falls on the court there. If you think, oh, he wasn't doing drugs at that time. I mean, he admitted to doing drugs, he admitted to doing drugs, but now he's saying he didn't do drugs then. I'm sorry. I just have a hard time believing that. I really have a hard time believing that. Paul says the laptop was altered. There's been no evidence of that. If you have something on that, send it on over to me, because I haven't seen that at all. And I've seen a lot of the stuff on that laptop, and that's some scary shit. Again, my biggest problem with Hunter Biden is him moving art pieces for $500,000. I think those are payoffs. I really do. I think those are payoffs. I don't know if his dad's getting it. I'm not sure if they're involved. I wouldn't be surprised. Republicans are going to say, don't be stupid, Ant. He, of course, is involved. Democrats are going to say, don't be stupid, Ant. He's not involved. It hasn't been proven. All right. Flip a coin. I don't give a shit. I really don't care which way it goes. But I know that he's not upset. I know his art is not worth $500,000. I know that for sure. I know that for sure. That $500,000 price tag is coming with something attached to it. And that really makes me think his dad's involved. But again, that's going to be hard to prove in a short time. But from everything that I can see here with this case, they got the gun in there, they got the laptop in the court, they showed the permit, they had the gentleman who sold him the gun on the stand today. They've gone through everything, and the guy who sold him the gun, I mean, there was some inconsistencies. They argued about which way he parked. There were some little inconsistencies, but for the most part, all they have to do is this the guy? Yes. Okay. Great. Did he write the thing on the form? Yes. Oh, okay. Great. And that's it. And then just put it in there that he was still doing drugs. Now, the defense is going to have to just reasonable doubt, just reasonable doubt. That's all they need to do. Are they going to have enough to do that? I don't know. But if I'm on that jury and I'm seeing what I've been seeing in that court the last 3 days, and having seen what's on that laptop, I am going to vote to send that guy to prison. There's just no two ways about it. You have a drug addict who lied on a form to get a gun, and his thinking at the time was, I'm going to go shoot a gun instead of shooting up drugs. Okay. Believe me, the world is better off with this guy behind bars. The case started on Tuesday or Monday. I think this is day 3. I don't know. There was jury selection. Everything went by pretty quick. And again, before everybody comes down on me for Hunter Biden, I think that Donald Trump was guilty too. I don't know what that means. Really, realistically, neither of these cases have anything to do with each other, but I kind of have to say that to stop the angry tweets after the show. Like, what the fuck you talking about, man? I think Donald Trump is guilty. What? And fucking Hunter Biden is not fucking guilty. Piece of shit. All right, he's guilty. I'm just telling you like I say it. If I say Hunter Biden's guilty, people are going to snap out. Oh, Donald Trump doesn't deserve it. And he didn't do it. No, he did it too. I mean, when you think about it, we're kind of reaching a low point here where the first son and a former president and presidential candidate are both convicted felons. This is the low point of leadership in this country. I mean, it's fucking sad. It's sad. I asked the question the other day, are you embarrassed? And I feel like the Hunter case only makes it worse, And it's hard to feel good about Joe Biden when his son is doing that. Yes, you can make that separation of that's his son. And what are you going to do? But I mean, the other, I don't know. Listen, we're different people. In my world, in my family, and how we grew up, you did whatever you could for blood, even if it was doing things wrong, even if you had to bend the rules and go outside the law sometimes, you did whatever you could for your loved ones. And that's still the case with me. That's why I'll never see my name on a ballot. Still the case for me to this day. You do whatever you can for family, for your loved ones. It must be, I mean, really, when you think about it, it must be a nightmare to be the president of the United States right now. To be out there knowing that your son is a fuck up and he did fuck up and you can't defend. I mean, all you could do is say, I'm proud of him for kicking drugs, just to let him wilt out there and get thrown into prison. That is tough. That's why it takes a special person to be president. And we haven't had one for quite some time. We really haven't had one for quite some time. But I have to say this because it's tough, because if Biden's taking money, or we go to find out that he was part of the whatever, China, Ukraine, whatever, if we eventually find out that all that's true, you throw my next statement out the window. But give him credit right now They put the special. He has not interfered with this at all. And I know they're already starting to write the stories of like Biden putting pressure on, and then the first lady goes to the trial and blah blah blah. What is she supposed to do? What is he? First of all, Joe, the president cannot go to that trial. So you said the first lady to show some sign of support and some sign of, we are keeping our distance. He hasn't done anything to kill this, not that we've seen yet. And I got to give him a little credit for that, because again, if that's my kid, I'd tell the country to go fuck themselves, and I would support my kid. And you can't do that when you're president. It takes a special person. So I don't know if Joe's that special person, but he's certainly showing some sort of moxie in these first couple of days in court. You got to give him that at least. The Boeing whistleblower. All right, talk about scary. Forget all the other stuff. Talk about scary. There are 2 more whistleblowers that have come forward to speak out against Boeing. There were 2, and they're both dead. One from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Epstein special, as we like to call it. Suicided himself. And the other one from a mystery infection that moved very fast and killed him almost immediately. Boeing-itis, I think, was the infection. I'm not a doctor, but Boeing-itis is what I'm going to diagnose here. Now, in the wake of those 2 more whistleblowers have come forward and have admitted that Boeing and Spirit Aerosystems, a company that supplies a lot of, elements and parts to Boeing, are just flat out skipping safety and quality issues in a huge way. I mean, this is concerning for not only the people who fly, but again, the people who live under the planes that fly. Because you don't want one of these things dropping out of the sky landed on your house. That's not going to be fun for anybody. But there are 2, Irving and Paredes. Roy Irving is one, and they have both gone to the same lawyer. So there's a lawyer down in Charleston, South Carolina, who has been representing these whistleblowers, because you need some protection here. And since the 2 of them have died, Roy Irving and now Santiago Paredes, they've come forward to speak about what they have seen in that Charleston plant where they build all the airplanes. So Irvin said that he has pushed back almost every day. Irving said he pushed back almost every day at serious safety and quality issues that he found on planes that had left the factory floor and were on the flight line, meaning that they were going to be checked and being sent out into the fleet. Irving alleges that he was often forced to be insubordinate because of how many times he called out the problems that he saw. And I'm quoting here: missing safety devices on hardware or untightened hardware means that you're not going to be able to control the airplane if those fail. Look at Lindy. Tread lightly, my dear friend. Yeah. I wish I had one of those things that could change my face. You know what I mean? Like put me in the dark. That whole thing. Just like, brrr. When they do the voice. Allegedly, according to Boeing. That doesn't make you feel good when somebody says, you're not going to be able to control the aircraft if those things fail. He went on to say the safety device is on there. If the fastener is not secured correctly, it's going to fall off and you're not going to be able to control the airplane. Roy Irving, worked with John Barnett, the guy who died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. That was back in March 9th at a hotel in South Carolina while he was giving a deposition. The police have ruled that Barnett died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Then Joshua Dean, 45, a former quality auditor at Spirit Aerosystems, died in early May from a fast-growing infection. Those deaths sparked more whistleblowers to come forward, according to Brian Knowles, a Charleston, South Carolina attorney who represented those whistleblowers and is now representing Irvin and Paredes. His law firm has and is continuing to field dozens of calls from potential whistleblowers, from more whistleblowers who say they have information about Boeing in the recent weeks. Boy, am I excited to get on a plane in a couple days. I'm just going to be like, is this an Airbus? I'm calling my airline right now. Like, hi, Delta. Are you guys using Airbuses or Boeings? What are you using here on Monday? Let me know. Got the van. Here's my thing. I might need therapy. I want to die on the way back from vacation. Dying on the way to vacation, it's all tragic. It's all tragic. But that fucking plane goes down before you get on vacation. That stinks. It dies on the way back from vacation. You know what I mean? To pull something from Dave Chappelle. You know what I mean? Like, is it that you got that vacation? And is that really? How many times when you're on vacation, you go, oh, this is heaven. This is heaven. I don't want to go back. Well, Boeing might be able to deliver that promise to you. Might be able to deliver on that desire that you have of who wants to go back. Well, you may be going somewhere else. Anyway, so Mr. Knowles, obviously, he's fielding all these calls. He says, and I quote, most people we're hearing from are current employees. These are not disgruntled employees. In many cases, they love the company. It's not about bringing the company down. It's about getting the company back on track. Now, look, he's a lawyer. He's going to say all the right things, but I mean, if that's really happening, you got to feel terrified about this. I don't know. I have a big distrust for huge corporations. Is it just me? I feel like I'm not the only one. I am immediately on the sides of these whistleblowers. And if there's enough of them out there saying these things, I feel like this all needs to be like at some point, this has to go from a single lawyer whistleblower case to the friggin' government getting involved and investigating this, which they already have, which they've already found inconsistencies in Boeing's safety records. This has already taken place. You know, so these whistleblowers are just really the cherry on top of the sundae. And I'm a little shocked that we haven't had a movement here to kind of hey, let's lift open the hood a little bit, see what's up with this Boeing. You know, because it's typical of corporations to just, hey, we got quarterly reports, stockholders, we gotta just move that thing. It's close enough. Did you screw on the bolt for the safety thing? Yeah, sure we did. I'm okay with that sort of attitude in a lot of places, like the post office, McDonald's. Where I don't want that is in the doctor's office. Did you get that stent in the thing? Yeah, I think so. Should be okay. Just don't jump around a lot. Doctors, airline, airplane builders, building, construction people. I'd like them to do all the little safety checks. I'd like them to make sure everything is tip-top shape. I said this, that I worked for the airlines, and we threw some bags on a plane once that weren't x-rayed just to get the thing off in time. And I felt horrible about it, And, everything turned out to be okay. But that being said, like, I urge all those people, and it's why we talk about this stuff, to put the pressure on a little bit. You know how I said, I don't give a shit who you vote for. I don't give a fuck. I'm not here to convince you of that. I would like to convince the Boeing folks, though, to take that extra second and make sure everything is pretty safe. Because you don't want a fucking plane going down. You don't want that on your conscience that, 150 or 200 and whatever souls died because you had to get the fucking plane out of the shed and onto the runway before it was ready to go. That's not where you want to be. I know you're like, the odds are, but that motherfucker Murphy, whoever he is, passed that law for a reason. That shit happens, man. Just when you think, it'll be fine, sometimes it ain't. Sometimes it's really not. Boeing has said that they are open to hearing criticisms, but in reality, they are not being addressed internally, and many are retaliated against for speaking out. This is according to Brian Knowles, coming off of the conversations that he's been having with some of these whistleblowers. Paredes was a production inspector for Spirit Aerosystems for 12 years before leaving in 2022. He told the New York Post that he was shocked when he arrived at the company, and he alleges he saw hundreds of defects on the production line. He was even more horrified, he said, when he was pressured not to say anything. Yeah, because we talked about this with when Barnett first came out. It's like, not only bad enough that you're doing this, but now the people that are trying to make it right, you're retaliating against them. It's like, these are why we have harassment and sexual harassment rules in companies, right? Everybody usually sits down for those sexual harassment videos that are just fucking awful. Every year, I think every year or every two, I don't even know. This is not a real company. But they have to watch those shitty videos. I did work for a real company at one point, radio stations. We had to watch those stupid fucking videos. And you're like, who would do this shit? And then you go, oh, there are people that are out there retaliating against those who are trying to, make things a little bit better or make things right. I mean, it exists. So that's why we have those laws in place, because if somebody's going to bring something up to save lives, and then they're going to be retaliated against, you can't have that kind of a thing going on. Because then you're going to have planes dropping out of the sky. Breaking news, JSAB's not making the show. Devastated. Devastated. Unless everyone would like to hear her cough and blow her nose, or both. What's going on with JSABs? The health is a concern. I'd love to get her to a real doctor, somebody who believes in science, not the voodoo that she believes in. What do you do for somebody like JSABs that refuses to see a real doctor? You know what I mean? And then she also has a horrific coke problem and then wants to blame it on allergies. Oh, look at this. See, allergies are horrendous. Yeah, I know. I heard Axl Rose has an allergy problem too. You know what I'm saying? A lot of allergies out there. I get it. JSABs, you are missed. So God help us all, especially the old ant crew over here, because we're boarding a plane next week. By the way, we'll be off all next week for a vacation, a much needed vacation. We will be putting out some content for you, though. Members, you guys are going to get something really cool, which I'm really excited about. So if you're not a member, make sure you join. Link in the description below. You can get in there for as low as $2.99 and see some really fun behind-the-scenes stuff. This vacation period will be a wonderful time for some behind-the-scenes stuff. I'm going to take you on vacation with me, show you what we're doing down there with the family. So that'll be a real blast. So if you want to see that and get some of that insight, become a member. We'll also jump in if any kind of big thing happens and drop some quick little episodes for you. I'll try and that will do too for the members. So hang with us. Join if you haven't joined already. Become one of the members of the AOA army, or the AOA holes, as they like to call themselves, which I love so much. Get in there right now. Like I said, you could join for as low as $2.99. You could even join. Don't tell anybody, but you could join this month and then cancel next month and steal the vacation stuff. I would hate it, but you can do it. There's no long-term contract. You can go month to month. But if you stick with us, your $2.99 goes to support us for putting on this darn podcast. And for that, we are greatly appreciative. JLo and Ben Affleck. I really don't know what to believe here, because we keep seeing things that they're going to break up and get a divorce. People kind of say it's a fever dream, or people are really saying that she's losing her shit, that she's going through some mental breakdown. I read a lot of that kind of stuff. Then I saw them together and I was like, oh, they're together. Then I saw them together and then they kissed each other on the cheek. Is that really a bad sign, or are we just obsessively being weird with the celebrities? Because I will say, 99% of the time, I will give Cuddles a kiss on the lips, when I see her, if we go to meet each other, or, one of us has with the kids here or there, we there's always a kiss on the lips, but we do throw each other the occasional cheek kiss, I guess, forehead kiss. Now, forehead kiss, intimate. Cheek kiss, not so much. But I feel like we've, on the cheek a little bit. But for the most part, it's on the lips, though. Like I said, 99% of the time, I don't know if we just caught a cheek thing and then that's a big deal. I'm not entirely sure. But the story today here to further the JLo and Ben Affleck are done is the fact that they have put their Beverly Hills mansion up for sale. It popped up on the real estate market for $60 million. So no matter what happens, I'm really not worried about either of them. They're going to be okay, the both of them. But I would like to see them stick it together. I like Ben Affleck. I think I'm the only person in New York. Boston, everybody loves him there. He's got the Duncan thing. He's a Red Sox fan. He's from there. Okay, they love Boston. Bostonites love sucking their own dicks up there. I mean, they just love themselves. New Yorkers, we like ourselves too. I feel like Boston people, they really love their own kind. I feel like people don't really love Ben Affleck. I don't know why. I like him. And I feel like people from New York really don't like him because of the whole Boston thing. But I like him. And I hope he sticks with her. But clearly there's something going on. She canceled the tour. She gave the Vegas residency. All this kind of shit going on. And now their home is up for sale. Who knows if it's just all coincidental? I mean, they're certainly not going to not sell their home because they're worried about what people think if they're going to get divorced or not. That's not the case. Can't live your life like that. But I have to tell you, and I'm not one of these people that goes to TMZ often. Like, we'll do a story that TMZ has on occasion when it's necessary, but I really don't like to do that, because I don't really love supporting paparazzi. I'm not a big fan of paparazzi people, but I will tell you, like, on occasion on my TikTok feed and my Twitter feed, paparazzi stuff, comes up all the time, and I'm forced to watch it for a couple of seconds. And I think the same thing to myself all the time. I just think, how could they live like this? I saw one the other day, or just today, this morning. It was Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner, and they're walking with their kid, their son, on the way to, or on the way out of like a basketball game or a basketball practice or something like that. And I just thought to myself, it is such a tough existence. And I know what you're saying. And they're rich. They can deal with it. Fuck them. Okay. Yeah. Yes. All that stuff. Great. But they are people. And I know that's what they sign up for, but they are people. Like, I think about coming out of, baseball games with my kid, or hockey games or whatever. Maybe they made a bad play. Maybe the team lost a game. Some things are so tough sometimes. And it's hard to walk out of those hockey arenas and baseball fields with your kid having to deal with whatever just happened on the field or on the ice or whatever. And then you have assholes just fucking snapping photos of you all. Like, that stinks. And it stinks most for the kids. The kid didn't ask for that. And yes, they're celebrities and fuck them, and yes, all that stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, the guy likes to make movies. Is that such a fucking crime? Does he need his photograph taken every time he gets? And that's the thing that kills me the most. I'm like, he's walking from a building into his car. I mean, who really gives a shit about that anymore? I could see 10 years ago it being a big deal. I could see the beginning, like when we just had the tabloid magazines. And you have to go to a magazine to see the photo. Okay, I get the intrigue of, ooh, what are they really like? But it's 2024. We know what they're really like. They walk to their cars like everybody else. Who really gives a shit anymore? Honestly, I think the same thing to myself. Oh, that's unfortunate. Why did I spend an extra 4 seconds watching this guy walk to his fucking car? Who gives a shit? Now, granted, when, a divorce rumor pops up, all right, we're all a little intrigued. Are they splitting up? Are they not splitting up? That's common. That's human nature. Like, my wife and I kind of do that. I shouldn't say this, at sporting events for our kids. We're like, are they divorced? We're like, have you noticed those parents aren't really talking to each other? Sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes mom's on the first base side and dad's on the third base side. Sometimes it's really obvious. Sometimes it's not so obvious, you know? And not that it matters, but it is kind of human nature to be like, are you guys together or not together? I find myself, I said to my wife the other day, and by the other day, I'm lying. I mean, just today. I was like, is so-and-so, are they divorced? And she's like, I don't really know. And she's like, why do you think? I said, well, because I was talking to so-and-so and they said something. And she's like, I don't know, maybe. She's like, do you care? And I'm like, no, but yeah. Like, kind of. Like, why do I need to know this? I'm not entirely sure. You know, because party doesn't want to put your foot in your mouth. Also, don't you feel like you want to be like sensitive to people if they're divorced? Like, you don't want to be like my wife, you know? I always kind of feel that way. Like, I love my wife to death. But I'm not going to throw that in somebody's face if they've split from theirs, you know? I don't know. That's just me. Part of it's kind of like I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but part of it is also kind of just pure human curiosity. The Contraception Act. So interesting thing that we saw play out today in the world of politics, where the Democrats put a bill forward that gave the right to obtain gave women the right to obtain contraception. They need it. As much as I believe women have the right to do whatever they want with their bodies, which I do, and I'd like women to have contraception when they need it. I think that this is a political stunt. I think that the Democrats, hear me out, people. I think that the Democrats saw what was happening with the Trump numbers post felony conviction and thought, we've got to bring out the big guns again. And by the way, I don't fault them for bringing the contraception bill to the floor for a vote. They're playing their game, right? I mean, it's like being mad at a pitcher for intentionally walking a batter to get to the shittier batter after them. It's part of the game. It's in the rules. So the Republicans are going to go on crying that this was a political stunt. And do I think it was? 100% yes. At the same time, the Republicans failed the test because they didn't pass it. They voted against it. Women voted against it, which is just beyond me. I mean, the one of the biggest surprises for me is is conservative women not being able to get behind this thing. That's what's really unbelievable to me. To be a woman, you guys tell me if I'm wrong here, especially let me rephrase that. You ladies tell me if I'm wrong here. Men, you shut up. This is not your time. You guys shut up. Ladies only. You tell me if I'm wrong here. But feels like a woman voting to not give another woman contraception is really like, I mean, that's fucked up. That's really fucked up. And the Democrats know it. By the way, the Democrats doing this today is so that they can get Tim Scott and, you know, certain other senators and people, so they can book them into them voting no on this so they could run campaign ads against them. Again, is it a stunt? Yes. Is it within the rules? Yes. Did the Republicans fail at it? Yes. So, you know, call it what you will, cheap stunt or whatever, but I still feel like the Republicans did not handle it well. They voted it down. And they said it was a stunt and voted it down. Yeah, but your track record's not great. You having put a president in the White House who put judges on the court who reversed Roe v. Wade. By the way, it's so bad. I was just reading in Texas that this woman who medically needed an abortion, the baby was done, not going to live, not going to survive. in order to ensure the mother's health, they needed to have an abortion, get rid of the fetus. And it was stopped because of the law. And again, I'm doing my due diligence, so I'm probably talking about this a little bit earlier than I should. But as the story goes of what I was reading, the fact that she didn't get it, now she's unable to have children. So here's a woman who named a baby, was ready to have a baby, getting everything ready. This unfortunate incident happened. The doctors look at it and go, if, just to ensure that you're okay in your survival now and then having a baby in the future, we believe you should have an abortion, and then couldn't get it done because of the law there. And I guess time sensitive couldn't wait to travel somewhere else to figure out where else she could do it. And now she's lost the baby. And because they didn't move fast enough, she can't have kids anymore. That's fucking horrible. That's fucking horrible. And Frank might get mad at me for saying this, and the religious people might get mad at me for saying this. I don't know if there's a God. I believe there is. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not as confident as Frank in the fact that there is. I'm also willing to put Jesus on a shirt with Trump as a goof. Frank is not. We learned that. Nothing wrong with that. I still love my man, 100%. But God is a question mark for me. He might be there. She might be there. God may not be there. But people are here. That I do know. There are other human beings here, of which I am 100% sure. And I feel like when we choose God over the people in front of us, that's when we have historically gotten ourselves in the most muddy water. And I really wish we would stop doing that. I really wish we would say, oh, I have my beliefs, but my fellow people also need me, and I'm going to forego what I believe so that they could live their own lives. Not this whole thing of, I believe in an invisible person in the sky, so you have to compromise your health for it. It seems fucking crazy to me. But I didn't think we would get here, and we clearly did. Frank predicted this, and I said he was crazy, and I was wrong for that. I was 100% wrong for that. But that's not the only story. Like, there's so many other stories in Texas right now of women who want to have children, but for whatever reason, medically or this or that, can't. And, their health is being compromised for it. Their future plans to have families being compromised for it. And I think it's fucking disgusting. I don't even want to talk about it. But the thing today was, and the Republicans were basically saying, like, well, they're trying to pass abortion under contraception. And it's like, okay, I could even get behind that if you want me to, but still, it's your fucking fault we're here to begin with. You guys talk about bringing this stuff down to the state level. All right, fine. But I still think it was fine the way it was. Again, I believe that our Constitution and our whole form of government was set up so that we can make the laws up that we need as and when we need them. And although people were divided on Roe v. Wade, it was great when it was there because it allowed us to navigate those tricky waters. Kept the religious people happy enough that it wasn't technically a law, it was just precedent, and it kept people, women, happy enough because they could get what they needed when they needed it. So to upset that apple cart is really it's really disappointing. And the fact that, again, I'm sorry to say this, but women don't seem to give a shit because those poll numbers are the same. The person responsible for this, they are willing to put right back into the White House, and they don't fucking care. I have such a hard time with that. I really, really do, because if I was a woman, I wouldn't be able to get over that. If somebody passed a law saying overweight but still attractive Italian men who love the Islanders from New York can't get health care, I would not support that person no matter what else they did for me. You know what I mean? Sorry for throwing in the still attractive thing. I just had to give myself one thing out of the four. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I couldn't find myself being like, I trust God over my own self. I'd be like, I don't even think God would want it that way. And by the way, I do believe that if there is a God, he doesn't want it that way. I do believe that God would want us to choose each other over God. That's the God that I believe in, if there is one there. So that's the Contraception Act. Stunt, yes. Did the Republicans still fail at it? Yes. Are we here even because of the Republicans? Yes. Would the Democrats be pulling a stunt like this if it wasn't for the fact that Trump put these judges on the court who said they weren't going to touch this and then did? You know, again, it all started with the Republicans there. I'm sorry. This one is clear cut and dry for me. So you can't be like, well, the Democrats are pulling. No, you can call it a stunt if you want. It's not out of bounds for me. You guys fucked up and they are making it a point. And by the way, that's not going to go away. This is the ace in the hole for the Democrats going into November, not just for the presidency, more importantly, for all the Senate seats, for all the House seats. That's where this is going to play out even more so. All those Republicans who voted against this are going to get nothing but ads pointing this out going into November, and they deserve it. How about this for a baggage tip? A little flight tip for you. I can even make this a two-part. One, try not to go into a Boeing plane if you can. I don't know if that's really possible, but feels like, you know, again, I don't love picking sides often, but I kind of feel like an Airbus person. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking over at the column of Airbus whistleblowers, and it's pretty empty compared to the Boeing whistleblower column. But anyway, a baggage worker, which I used to be, by the way. Little fun fact for everybody. I used to hump bags, as we called it. I don't know why we said that. Humping was literally throwing them in, not like humping, but I don't know, whatever. Came out with one. I love these little viral moments that happen. Like, who cares what a baggage person has to say? Yet billions of people do, which I love. Because again, I used to be a baggage person, so I like that kind of stuff. That don't put string or yarn on your baggage. You know how people like to put, they like tie a big thick ribbon, yarn like type string or rope, big rope on their luggage. This baggage handler is saying, don't do that. Reason being is, when they put the little sticker thing with the scanny thing on it, those ropes can cover that up. So if the baggage doesn't get scanned as it's going through the system, it has to be manually pulled. And when your baggage is manually pulled, it's a better chance that it doesn't make the flight that you're on. So what he's saying is throw a sticker on the side if you can. You could even use a little ribbon if you want to, but keep that rope off of the handle, because when they go to put that thing on, if the big thick rope covers it, your baggage is going to get pulled. It's more likely to delay your flight, miss your flight altogether. Like if they have to pull all these things and they have to scan them all and do all this, it could keep your flight from leaving on time. And then, like I said, he could also miss the flight altogether. So this guy's saying, don't do that. And it struck a nerve because boom, it's gone viral. People are sharing that information out there like crazy, including us too. And it makes sense. I don't know about you, but in my head, we had a neon green piece of ropey yarn. I'm telling you, it was like cigar thick neon green on our luggage growing up as a kid. On our luggage, it was this neon green thing. And when we threw out luggage and took the rope off and put it on the new luggage, because that's how identifiable it was. the like luggage tags don't seem to get in the way for whatever reason. You know, he said luggage tags are fine. Stickers are preferred for identifying your thing. He said, but those yarns, they always tend to be right on the handle, and doesn't really work that way. You know, doesn't really work that way. So, little tidbit for you: if you want to avoid a snafu at the airport, stay away from that yarn on the handle. Also, try not to fly Boeing because their planes seem to be crashing a lot. Lots of whistleblowers. All right, that's it. Oh my goodness, an hour on the button. I made it through it all. We got any good? The chat's going off. I don't even know. I don't even know what's going on here. Christine says, "And it's not that easy. Have you seen the new 3D ultrasounds? You can see the baby. It's not a bunch of cells. And then the heart. Oh, and then you hear the stories of how abortionists kill a baby before it's born. Yeah, listen, no, nobody's denying that abortion stinks. You know, abortion is terrible. I'm personally against abortion, even though I paid for 6 or 7 in my life. Kidding, it's just jokes. No, I don't think anybody loves an abortion. I don't think anybody's thinking, oh, you know what I want to do this month before the month ends? Let's make sure we get an abortion. I don't think anybody wakes up thinking that. But I do think that medically it is a necessity sometimes. And I think that because doctors tell me it is. So with that in mind, I think to myself, okay, if this is a necessity at times, you can't regulate something like that. You can't go, there are too many people that are pregnant all the time for there to be some sort of a court to judge whether or not your abortion is worthy of legal termination or not. It's just not possible. So unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, the end result here is it all has to be legal. It all has to be allowed, which is the system that we had. By the way, it's no accident that we had Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade was set up exactly like our country was, to be flexible, to be, to be appropriate when needed, to be not more than it needed to be. Right? That's what's great about America. We don't like something, we pass an amendment. We can change. We can evolve. We can adapt. We put Roe v. Wade in, and it was there for a really long time, and it worked. And let me tell you something. And this you could take to the bank. No matter what you believe this, that the leaders that we had 30, 40, and 50 years ago were far better than the leadership that has been running our country on both sides of the aisle for the past 25 to 30 years. Okay. So when the Supreme Court puts Roe v. Wade out there, those are better people than what we have on the Supreme Court now, hands down. Presidents that put judges on the Supreme Court, by the way, a Republican used to put a Republican on, and a Democrat would put a Democrat on, and then they would put on Democrats that leaned towards they would put on Democrats with conservative values. They would put on the presidents that we had in the past made sure the court was always pretty even. These are facts. Our country was better when the president of the United States put somebody on to keep the courts even. I hate to tell you this because all you've been told by Fox News and Donald Trump and Chuck Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi, all you've been told is our side's right and their side's wrong. But the truth of the matter is, we are at our best when we work together. not to sound like a fluffy after school infomercial, but it's the truth. You want Republicans giving you things that the Republicans are good at, business, regulation, et cetera, et cetera. You want the Democrats giving you things that the Democrats are good at, social responsibilities, so on and so forth. So when those two sides battle it out and wait for it, compromise, we lived in a very great country. Very great. When we got to the point where we thought, oh no, my side is better than yours and we have to win, that's when we started falling apart. And that's the absolute truth of the matter. Everything that you look at that was passed in a bipartisan way stood here for a very, very, very long time. And it's usually something that we can all universally agree on. We used to look at things in issues and we used to say, let's fix this. And then if we don't get it right, we'll fix it again down the road. Now we argue about how much my side's getting. And if your side's getting too much, then we just don't do anything about it. And that is very wrong. That is very, very, very wrong. Which is why I have a big problem with where the world is today with politics, right? Like, people love Donald Trump and that's wonderful, but you know, again, we're better off when we have a president of one party and a Congress of another. Because by the way, that combination used to still get things done. Recently, it has not. And that's because we have shitty leaders across the board, Republicans and Democrats. We have shitty leadership. We have a real leadership problem. Again, the leadership that we've had the last 20, 25 years, 30 years, awful. Awful. 40 years, even, if you want to say. Awful. Terrible. Because we used to have a country that we put things together. It was kind of like nobody really won, but we were all kind of winning that way. We didn't really know that. And things have gotten considerably worse. And I think it's cable news that kind of started us down that road. And here we are. Anyway, I can't wax poetic about that. If you think about it, you'll know your old pal Ant's 100% right. And by the way, I didn't just pull that stuff out of my ass. I've studied this. Issues across the board, healthcare, environment, taxes. You go back and study it. When it was done with bipartisanship, it was successful and good for the country. The biggest economic boom of our country, the 50s and 60s, when we had the healthiest middle class, there was wealth distribution up and down our economic classes. Republicans never won. Democrats never won. They just figured out things together. We don't have that anymore. We have, my guy's got to win. I'm not trying to call you out here, Jackie, but Trump for America. Trump's the only one who can save America. And Joe Biden's the best we could do. Fuck Trump. But it never going to work that way. These aren't the guys that are going to pull us out of this. Nobody who thinks, the first time you see a president of a party put another party's person on their cabinet, that will be the clear sign to you that we're coming out of this shitstorm that we've been in. That'll be the first sign to you. When a Republican puts a Democrat in as Secretary of State, or a Democrat puts a Republican in as whatever, Secretary of Commerce, whatever, that's when you'll know you'll have somebody. And by the way, I think my generation, I'm 40, the 35-year-olds and the 30-year-olds are yearning for somebody like that. The first time you're going to get a candidate that's like, I believe all of these things, I'm on this side, but I also believe that the other side can help us with this, this, and that, and I'm going to put these people on my cabinet, and you're going to get those people to come along. That's a great sign. By the way, Matt Gaetz was that guy for a little while, and then he brought a 17-year-old on an airplane. Matt Gaetz, for a little while there's a documentary. Gaetz is a Republican. I forget the name of the Democrat that he was with, but those two guys were like trailblazing people. Like the two of them were working together so hard, and they were bucking that trend of you can't get the two parties to work together. And then I don't know what happened to Matt Gaetz. The guy fell off the fucking rails. But when I saw that, there was hope there. Then it dried up and fell off. Hopefully it'll come back. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the worst version of this. And I hope she's the bottom. And we go up from there. That's my only hope. Again, we're back Friday. Frankie C will be here. Hopefully we'll have J Sabs. I believe we got a game coming back from Aaron C, so I'm looking forward to that. Should be a whole bunch of fun on Friday's show. It'll be our farewell. We're off next week, but again, we're going to be dripping out clips and content in the members area. I'm going to keep flush with some photos and some video as well. Some real behind the scenes shit from everybody for next week. So I hope you guys become a member if you haven't done so already. There's a link in the description below for that, no matter where you're watching and or listening. Click that link, become a member for as low as $2.99. You literally can't even get a fucking coffee anymore for that price, as you can get some laughs and some information here on the old AOA podcast. Appreciate you all. Thanks so much for the comments. Thanks for the likes, for the shares, and we'll catch you guys on Friday.
Show me potato salad. Maybe we should go now.